Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita mi ritrovai per una selva oscura che la diritta via era smarrita. Oh, hi. I didn't see you there. My name is Allegra Clark, and I am reading Dante's Inferno. So when I don't actually need these glasses because I can see without them. So when I was in college, one of the most formative experiences that I had was I took the dive my first quarter of my sophomore year, and I said, I'm going to take a class about Dante Alighieri. The Inferno has been a really, really important piece to me, not only as my first major exploration of Italian literature and poetry, but also just because it is, it's Bible fan fiction, like straightforward Bible fan fiction. Dante wrote the Inferno, and well, the Divine Comedy as a whole, but especially the Inferno, as a result of him being exiled from Florence. He had a lot of anger on the subject. Basically, there was a huge political movement taking place. He got exiled, he was furious, he felt betrayed, and he wrote a lot of his anger into the Inferno in particular, where he took out a lot of his frustrations about Florentine politics and specific individuals, literally by putting them in hell. Like, aspire to be that petty. Like, what are you doing with your life? He wrote people into hell. They are immortalized as assholes. So the sections that I've chosen are sections that have either stuck with me since I originally read the Inferno, or things that have sort of gained additional meanings as a result of time passing and things that I've enjoyed. The first section, I'm actually going to read it in Italian before reading the English translation, is the inscription on the gates of hell, Canto 3, lines 1 through 9. In Italian, it's Per me si va nella città dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente. Giustizia mozze il mio alto fattore, fecemi la divina podestate, la somma sapienza il primo amore. Dinanzi a me non fuor cose create se non eterne, e io eterno duro. Lasciate ogni speranza voi ch'intrate. Per Durling's translation, it means, through me the way into the grieving city, through me the way into eternal sorrow, through me the way among the lost people. Justice moved my high maker. Divine power made me, highest wisdom and primal love. Before me were no things created except eternal ones, and I endure eternal. Abandon every hope, ye who enter. It's actually you who enter. I misread it and I got very excited about saying ye who enter, but it's fine. The reason why this really sticks with me, other than the fact that it is an incredibly ominous series of three tercets. It is the beginning of the third canto, so it is the moment where Dante and Virgil quite literally enter proper hell for the first time. Before me were no things created except eternal ones, and I endure eternal. It means that at the end of the day, what is the most eternal thing but death? As powerful as God is, so is death. So it kind of puts them on an even pedestal, and it gives the Inferno, it gives hell kind of an equal power to heaven. But the reason why it means a lot to me is that when I first worked on Dragon Age Inquisition, it was one of my first big games. I was so nervous, and I had to do an Italian accent for it. And as a way of getting myself not into the character, but into the dialect and getting the dialect in my mouth, I had actually memorized the inscription on the gates of hell. And I would recite it before every single session. Or if we took a break, I would maybe just run through it really quickly, like, per me si va nella città dolente, per me si va nell'eterno dolore, per me si va tra la perduta gente, like, you know, just to kind of get it in my mouth so that I could be like, okay, and so now I can do an Italian accent, like kind of a thing.
They are chiefly bluster, Inquisitor. Most of them.
The next section that I have brought up, again, is something that came up a little bit later in my life. It actually hit me for the first time beginning of last year, so beginning of 2018. It is in Canto 5. Master, who are those people whom the black wind so chastises? The first of those about whom you wish to learn, he said to me then, was empress over many languages. So broken was she to the vice of lust that in her laws she made licit whatever pleased, to lift from herself the blame she incurred. She is Semiramis, of whom we read that she succeeded Ninus and was his wife. She ruled the land the Sultan governs now. I had totally forgotten that this moment existed until the day before I recorded my last session on Fate Apocrypha. I was the voice of Assassin of Red, Semiramis in Fate Apocrypha, and I found this and I realized that the section made me angry on her behalf. Because the sense of Semiramis being an evil figure in history is something that was 100% created by like a Judeo-Christian narrative of things. Specifically the parts of Europe and Asia that were under the rule of Babylon have negative associations with Semiramis because she was the queen who killed, the queen who conquered, and she became like an evil figure in history. And then the thing that she's associated with the most is this treachery, the treachery of killing her husband. When in reality, like, it's not actually known for sure whether she killed her husband. It's certainly not known whether the historical figure of Semiramis did anything akin to the incest that she is frequently accused of, but it's become a part of the history of her character. So by the time you get to something like a Fate Apocrypha, the history of who she was has been so colored by the mythology of how other people have written her for so long that she gets characterized as this inherently evil figure, when in reality, we don't actually know who she was. People from the where would have been Babylon actually revere her. There are plaques in the ruins that basically say that, like, she built up so much, she did so much, she did so much. Was she a good person? Hard to say. She may have, for all we know, have been a tyrant. She is accused of being lustful, she is accused of being vain and greedy and everything, and all of that has colored our impressions of who this historical figure is. And it's a great example of almost the telephone game of history. So Dante would have picked up a lot of this from St. Augustine and other early Christian writers, who in turn would have picked it up from other places. For whatever reason, this has become her legacy. And so when I realized that that was there, and I reread this section for the first time in a decade, more or less, I realized that I was so angry and insulted on her behalf, because she deserved better than the way history remembers her.
And besides, whether or not it can be done doesn't matter in the slightest. A servant's job is to serve their master, isn't it?
Later on, way later, way later, we get Canto 24, which I actually don't have. I'll have to like jump around and cite a bunch of different things, because when I was rereading the Inferno and revisiting the Inferno leading up to us recording this, I found a bunch of notes that I had made like back in 2007 or something like that, that I don't know if these were things that we discussed in class or notes that I made later, but it's really interesting. Canto 24 is when you get to the seventh bolgia of the eighth circle of hell, specifically the circle of fraud, specifically the subsection of thieves. Now, in the subsection of thieves, basically people are punished by being chased by lizards and snakes for the rest of eternity because they stole shit.
Oh, she's stealing?
And what's interesting about all of this, and this section that I have marked from basically 2464 and the first 6 lines of Canto 25, is this sort of recurring theme of thievery as a parallel to speech. I was speaking as I went so as not to seem feeble, and then a voice came from the next ditch, unapt to form words. I do not know what it said, although I was already mounting the arch that crosses there, but the speaker seemed to be moved to anger. Later on, I said, Master, when you reach the next belt, let us descend from the ridge, for as from here, I hear but cannot understand. So I look down but make out nothing. Part of what interests Dante so much during his entire run of the Inferno is he wants to understand why people ended up where they ended up. He's understanding and witnessing all of hell for what it is, but also trying to understand the crimes that people committed, literally, morally, etc., to get themselves to the place where they are. He does this to a great extent in general, but he does it even more here, where he works very hard to hear and listen. And it's just other like little moments that are brought down. One of the people he speaks to specifically, later identified as Vanifucci, says, I rained down from Tuscany not long ago into this fierce throat. So hell is described literally as a throat. And at the end of this, it's very funny, when he finally, when the guy is done, the thief who has been speaking his piece and explaining what he did and all the bad stuff he did to get here, when he's done, lines 1 to 6, Canto 25. At the end of his words, the thief raised his hand with both the figs. Doing the fig is the ye ancient way of basically saying, fuck you. It's this think it's either this or this, I can't remember, this gesture, and it's the equivalent of flipping the bird. He raised his hands with both the figs, crying, "Take them, God, I'm aiming at you." So he's committing severe blasphemy while already in hell. From then on, the snakes have been my friends, because one of them wrapped itself around his neck as if to say, I won't let him say anymore. So the snakes, literally, the punishment of hell, the punishment of this section of hell goes, you've done enough. And they silence this thief. They prevent him from speaking anymore. What it comes down to is that speech and understanding is power. It's a lot of people, like I said, it's Dante trying to understand why people ended up where they are, and giving people a voice, giving these sinners a voice to be able to explain what they did, and subsequently for us, the readers, to understand what awaits us if we commit these same crimes. And also all those people he didn't like. He prophesized people ending up in hell who hadn't died yet. He'd be like, and then this guy is gonna end up in hell because he was a bad person. So it is actually a hugely moral cautionary tale for the general audience, but also for people Dante doesn't like. It's just an interesting exploration of the ways that the word choices that Dante used. I mean, he is naturally a poet, so his words are literally poetry, but the recurring theme of the voice, the throat, in particular in this section surrounding the thieves, was so fascinating to me, and getting to re-explore it just this past week was really cool for me. The last section I have over here, it's very short, but it's very brutal. It is in Canto 32. We are now in Antenora, the second subsection of the 9th level of hell. Specifically, we are at fraud against one's country or party. And here people are buried up to here in ice. So they've got leverage of their head, but they can't really do that much with their neck. And I'll just read it. This is lines 124 to 132. We had already left them when I saw two frozen in one hole, so that one head was a hat to the other. And as bread is eaten by the starving, so the one above put his teeth to the other, that where the brain joins the nape. Not otherwise did Tydeus gnaw Melanippus' temples in his rage, then this one did the skull and the other things. Literally, this bruh over here, who, by the way, is his name is Count Ugolino, his head is above the head of another, who is Ruggieri. Ruggieri's head is like this, so like you can mostly see here. And Ugolino, there's a beautiful Doré image that should be up behind me or next to me or wherever, on top of me. Maybe I'm just Gustave Doré now. The other head, Ugolino's head, is positioned above it and gnawing at the nape of his neck right over here. The very brief backstory of this is that Ugolino was a politician in Pisa who was ultimately deemed a traitor to the city and exiled. And Ruggieri was like, no, come back, it's okay, I've cleared everything over. It was a ruse. What they did was they locked him in a tower, Ugolino and his 4, I think, sons. Ugolino, subsequently he was in jail and everything, and then one day they nailed the doors to the tower where they were imprisoned shut. And they starved to death over the course of a week. Ugolino watched his kids die, and then before he perished himself. So he clearly did something and had some shady dealings that allowed him to, or that led to him being punished and end up in the level of treachery versus city. But Ruggieri, who was a member of his political party, betraying him in such a way, also wound up in hell. And as a fitting punishment for the one who did something wrong, at least the one who got one-upped and had to literally watch his sons die before dying himself, gets to at least chew on that motherfucker's neck for the rest of eternity. It's just a really beautiful and gruesome image that I think always stuck with me. And like I said, once you see the Doré, it's gnarly. And it's definitely a testament to Dante's creativity, because this entire thing is incredibly creative, especially all the wonderful, delightful ways that he tortures people. If you like the Inferno, it's because you like watching me. So thank you all so much for joining me while I nerd out about the Inferno. If you are interested in more content, you can follow me at Simply Allegra on Twitter and Instagram. If you want to watch more of this stuff, you want to see me reading some more of one of my favorite pieces, or maybe a different Italian poet I really like, or just anything else being really goofy, just tag us. Let us know if you want us to do more fun stuff. In the meantime, like, comment, subscribe, have fun, enjoy Dante, and read the Divine Comedy. It's so interesting. It's so interesting. Bye, guys.